The Indie Writers Club is brought to you by Publish Drive. With one click, self-publish your ebooks, audiobooks and print books to thousands of stores and libraries worldwide. And now you can start for free forever. Publish Drive's new free plan lets you publish your first ebook to 35 stores worldwide absolutely free. No subscription fees, no commissions. Keep 100% of the royalties. Get your titles online in just a few minutes at publishdrive.com.
It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara, Claire and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Welcome to the Indie Writers Club. I am Cara Claire.
And I'm James Blatch. Happy Friday or weekend to you, if you're on the
Happy
treadmill.
Friday.
Happy Friday.
The end of February. It feels like we're finally moving into spring. I mean, I don't want to scare it away.
No.
But it sort of feels like this, it's a new moon, all sorts of things.
Ne'er cast a clout till May is out.
Well, there is that. But there's, some flowers and things are trying to come through.
There
That's
are.
nice.
Well, we've had snowdrops for a while, obviously, because that's the point of them. They come out in January. But I have noticed some green shoots of spring around the place.
Come on, James, cheer up. Be optimistic.
Yeah, the green shoots. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. And are you going on your holidays this year? Sort of like a hairdressing question, isn't it?
I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and the only things I've got booked are writing-related conferences. So I need to actually book some holidays or trips that are for me and not. But the thing is, when we go to these things, it's kind of like hanging out with your friends, isn't it?
Yeah, it is like a holiday.
It is like a holiday. And I'm trying to pick locations where I want to go. So Ireland, we're arriving the day before, aren't we, on St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
And then I'm hoping to go to Nink, which is obviously Florida, which would be lovely.
Yes.
We won't talk about Vegas. I'm going, but I'm not happy about it.
No.
But I've booked, I'm taking my son. My 7-year-old had a choice between a week at Centre Parks or one night at Chessington World of Adventures in the Jumanji themed room. And he chose Chessington, which I was actually quite excited about because the room looks super cool.
Yes, it does look so. I thought you said you're going to take your son to Vegas. Thought that's not a good idea.
Oh, God, no. No.
Well, I like this waffling bit because we've already had our first comment on YouTube. And when are they going to get to the point? When are they going to get to the point? Because I had, I've done 440 episodes of the self-publishing show, and at least once a month, somebody would find the episode, watch the first 10 minutes, not like it, and then say, well, when did they get to the point? It's like their one comment on podcast. And this guy actually, he also said, this is no way to grow a channel. So I clicked on his channel. He's got no subscribers and he's got 3 or 4 subscribers and no content. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm not probably going to take advice from you. Anyway, we waffle.
The waffly bit. When I listen to other people's podcasts, I really enjoy it.
This is a conversation. We're going to talk about anything, and then we will talk about the main topic, which is Facebook ads today. Are they still working? We're going to come on to that. So if you don't like the format, honestly, just go and find another. Don't post on YouTube. Don't bring your negativity in here. Just go and find another. You'll find
we do not welcome negativity in our space. No. Please move on.
You'll find a very structured self-publishing podcast somewhere. I'm sure someone will do one for you. So, yes, you were going to show me your new ink. You've had ink done.
Yeah, I got a tattoo yesterday. So this is my divorce tattoo. Bit of a cliche. Don't care. Here it is for those on YouTube.
It is a sort of winged insect angel devil.
So it's a phoenix. Because my main series is the Phoenix Prophecy series, but it's got a woman inside it, a naked lady inside it, and she has no head. She has a moth for a head, and there's like a snake on her stomach and like vines and things. And it's all very symbolic. And a friend of mine fed it into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to describe the symbolism, and it was scarily accurate. It was very scarily accurate, yeah. But it was 7 hours. 7 hours. I was very proud of myself.
Oh my God. Well, it looks a bit red still.
Well, it's only done yesterday. Yeah. The first 3 hours were fine. The middle 2 were starting to get a bit uncomfortable, sort of like, why are you still doing this to me? And the last 2 hours, I was just like, oh my God, why am I doing this?
And do you mind me asking how much it cost, your divorce tattoo?
So this one was actually only £450 because the guy doing it is incredible. He's not long been finished his apprenticeship. And he's kind of building up his clientele and stuff. So think about the amount of hours work that went into it. And he obviously sketched it up beforehand, and it was really great. They were called Almost Angels Tattoos in Ely, if anybody wants to go. It was fantastic, actually.
I'll go there later today.
Yeah, you should. A lot of them are quite intimidating, because I'm not really like a tattoo sort of person.
Tattoo parlours look a little bit like
and this wasn't
drug
at
dens
all.
or Hell's Angels dens.
No, this wasn't at all. It was so super friendly, relaxed. I took snacks. We had a break every now and again for a coffee. It was lovely. The only problem was it's my writing hand, so I couldn't sit and scribble notes or type anything on my phone. I had to just sit and kind of be zen for the day, which isn't very like me.
Not very like you.
But anyway, we're waffling too much, James. What's the news
we're going to get a comment.
What updates have we got?
I'm deliberately spinning it out. So
are you doing it deliberately now?
Yeah. We can say that we have, I think, one space left at the Cambridge retreat. So
you have booked me a space, right? You have reserved a space. Okay, good.
You have a space. I have a space, and there's one space left. So if you want to grab that, go to indiewritersclub.com/retreats. You can read all about it, see what you're going to get, what we're going to do.
You know what? Just from because we set up a little Facebook group just so that everyone who's coming can introduce themselves. And just from the little introduction thread, I'm getting so excited because it seems like a really genuinely lovely bunch of people. And it just reminds me how special it is when you get people together in that kind of group. And already I can kind of feel like the creativity kind of fizzing. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. I'm excited. I am excited. It's going to be our thing, and it's going to be fun. And that's all coming in June. Of course, there's the self-publishing show before then. You can grab your tickets for that. I think there are like 8 tickets left for the 2 days, for the workshop day and the main day. So that is learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live. If you want to come to the workshop day as well, which is going to be you need to grab those tickets now because they're about to go. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be just the one-day conference, which will be like the trade fair and one-day conference and a big gathering of authors in the South Bank in London.
It's always sunny. I mean, I hope I'm not jinxing it, but it's usually gloriously sunny, isn't it?
We had that one torrential downpour 2 years ago at exactly the point everyone was registering at sort of 8:30 to 9 o'clock. It was absolutely torrential, almost flooded the ground. And then that was it. The whole rest of the time it was like 30 degrees.
Yeah, because I remember literally being soaked when I got to the venue because I'd had to walk from my hotel. But then the sun came out, and by the evening when we were all standing outside chatting, it was glorious.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, look, we're going to talk about Facebook ads. And I've posed the question, do they still work? Are they still effective for authors? And the answer to that, spoiler alert, the answer to that is yes. But like every aspect of that type of marketing that's been around for a while, it gradually becomes less effective. And we've had a couple of moments in the last couple of years where there's been this sudden drop-off of effectiveness of Facebook ads. We had one about this time last year, which everyone reported, and it was in the press, and they talked about there being an algorithm change. It even got into kind of Marketing Week, like the big trade global magazines that talked about the billions that big companies had lost and small companies as well because of this algorithm change inside Facebook. I think something's happened again in the last few months because I've seen a lot of authors talking about flatlining or dropping down since November. Now, we know November was a terrible month for Facebook advertising, meta advertising, and actually social media advertising in general because of the US elections, followed by Black Friday. So it just became very expensive. You spent $100 in the middle of February, you would have got very little bang for your buck, whereas the month before would have been better, and hopefully the month afterwards. But that's the problem this year. There hasn't really been that recovery. Been a bit of a recovery, but it's still pretty flat. It's just started in the last couple of weeks to look a bit better, and I see a lot of data here. So this is not just one account, and I've checked with a couple of big authors who are doing 7 figures a year, and they've confirmed that it's been pretty miserable since November. I think my theory here about the big question. So I went to see Meta for the first time ever, and I mentioned this, I think, on an early podcast. I'd not been to Meta before, not had a contact there, but I was invited in to have a sort of day of them rolling out everything. And it was very corporate-y, and it was very, wow, we're so excited to tell you this. And you think, okay, you're doing stuff not necessarily because this is going to make it better for us. You're doing stuff because there's this general trend of you don't have the access to people's information anymore because of privacy. And I think that's behind everything. The privacy changes that happened a few years ago, the Cambridge Analytica scandal and all of that. iOS was a big change. Apple saying that they're not allowing a pass-through of information from its users, even opening emails, is not being passed back to people. So we lost all that data, all that information. And what that meant for Facebook is they knew that their very, very good system where we could target somebody who used a certain toothbrush head type thing, it was really meta targeting, micro targeting. And that was going to degrade over time, because although they still have interests, and I think it's a bit of a trick. So I think, okay, so I can still choose somebody who's interested in Pima Air and Space Museum, which is quite a good one for me. There's a few air museums. So I use that quite often. But the problem is, I think they haven't updated that interest in about 4 or 5 years. And there's been a churn of people. And so the audience looks like it's the same and you're choosing the same interest, but it's every month becomes less effective at finding your ads, which is why when I went to this workshop day in London, they said, don't worry about targeting. Targeting is a thing of the past. We're not targeting anymore. It's all about media, all about the images and the content and the creative. They call it the creative. So the copy you use, the picture you use, and then their algorithm is going to look at that and it's going to go off and find people. So I think we are at that point, but unfortunately that system is not as effective as the direct targeting we've had in the past. And so we are now in a position where we kind of have to use the AI targeting, but it's just not delivering the results, anything like the results it delivered even a year ago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about my personal experience on there. I don't see many book ads myself now. I used to get books advertised to me all day, every day on my Facebook feed. And it really has faded over the last probably 6 months to a year, where I'm just not seeing them anymore. So I think what you said about the targeting kind of becoming less and less and less effective over time since those changes were made to, privacy changes and things, I think that's really spot on. Because it's not been updated there. And a lot of the pages and groups and things like that aren't relevant anymore on Facebook. A lot of them have kind of disappeared or declined, or those people aren't active on there anymore. So with the AI targeting, how does that work? What is Facebook using to judge who to show?
Well,
stuff?
They haven't said. It's all, secret. As usual with algorithms, it's proprietary information. Google will never explain to us how their algorithm works. You can guess. I think they do a bit of, like, if you put into ChatGPT, look at this advert, read the copy and tell me what sort of person you'd send this ad to. ChatGPT will give you an answer. So I think that's the fundamentals of what's happening. They're looking at what you've created and then finding an audience for it. The two other things that happen, I hope this happens, but I'm not 100% it happens. I hope that they look at the link you put in, the ultimate destination of where people are going, and they gather information about the product. So even if you've got your copy is slightly quirky, like a quote from your book, which won't necessarily reveal to a bot that you're a romantasy author. It will just be a slightly quirky, paragraph from chapter 2 that's a conversation between two people. So, but if it goes off to the Amazon product page, it gets all the information it needs. Oh, it's a book, it's in these categories, can scrape that information and use that. So I hope it does that, but I don't know whether it does. The other thing it does is it tests. And we do know from using, when we say AI, in the Meta ecosystem, it's called Advantage Plus, ADV Plus. That is the AI, and that's what it's called there. So when we use that, what tends to happen is the first day or two are not particularly effective, and you'll spend your money pretty quickly and not produce the clicks or the cost per click that you're looking for, but then it'll get better. So obviously there's this period of learning. There's always been a bit of that in Meta, but now that's probably a bigger part of the experience, is that you've got to run a campaign for a week to allow this AI to go off and find its, where the ad's going to hit best. And that's not great for indie authors, because lots of indie authors spend $5 or $8 a day and they check it every few hours, and they'll close the ads if they don't look like they're working after a couple of days. And now we're in a world where you basically got to put $100 in your pocket, out of your pocket, just to find out if the campaign's going to work. So that's not great for us. Okay for bigger companies, they probably wouldn't notice that. I
think I'm in that camp, because I mean, several times over the last probably 6 to 8 months, I've gone, no, I need to get my Facebook ads started back up, because TikTok's taken a bit of a dive and all of that kind of stuff. And every time I'm getting seemingly it's telling me I'm getting clicks. It's definitely charging me for clicks and it's not converting. And I'm like, how am I spending? I usually start with about £10, £20 a day because that's within my budget. And that's historically, that's been enough for me to judge whether something is converting quite, reasonably soon. And it just doesn't convert. And it seems to be showing them to people who've already read my series, because I'll get loads of comments from people going, love this series. This was amazing. I love these books. But it doesn't seem to be reaching new people who are actually going to buy the books.
That's a good point, actually, because I noticed a lot of the comments on my Facebook adverts are, I'd thoroughly recommend this series. I'm thinking, okay, so this ad's been served at you because you've read the series. Great. Okay, so that's all quite negative. So I was trying to think before approaching this discussion with people listening on the treadmill.
Yeah, I want you to convince me. I want you to convince me, James Blatt, that I should give it another go.
I think the people running on the treadmill are plodding now, going, oh, God, everything's hard. I'm always going through treacle. It is, what should we be doing to combat this? Well, first of all, I think knowledge is power here. So understanding that it is an AI, it is going to take a couple of days to find your audience. And only after that do you start judging the effectiveness of your campaigns, will alter the way that you start and monitor your campaigns. So I would definitely say really focus on the content. Don't use copy that's too obscure. I know, passages from books have worked well for people, but I'm just wondering now, because of the linked targeting, whether we do need to have copy that says a quote, a review quote that says this is the greatest romantasy book I've ever read would be perfect because it's got the word romantasy book in there. So that's the sort of thing we should be thinking about with copy.
So getting the words in there, like book, series,
keywords,
novel, best thing I ever read, all of those kind of things.
So that the robot knows it's a book and can start to think about the audience. The second thing is the image has got to be, on point. I don't know to what degree the AI reads the image, but if you think about, you're not targeting anymore. All you're really doing is the creative. So your focus should be on that. Give a few hours of your life to just playing with images and having a bunch of them ready to rotate them and check them and test them. And that's really where the time and effort should be, not on, because you're not going to have the targeting levers to pull.
So what do you think in terms of images, if you're trying to, let the algorithm know that this is a book? Because we used to always say, don't put images of a book. When I started doing Facebook ads, it was always, the advice was, don't put an actual image of a book. Choose an image, if I was advertising my women's fiction set in Tuscany, choose a beautiful image of Tuscany with some horses and some trees and that kind of thing. And historically, for my paranormal stuff, a castle has worked really well, or, a kind of gothic looking throne. So what do you think about that? Do you have you tested it with yours?
I do have some thoughts on that. So I think that used to be the case. And I think now I'm starting to think that what happened in the past is that you got more clicks, but you didn't necessarily get more sales with that tactic. And I think the clicks came from people who weren't sure, particularly in the thriller sector, weren't sure whether you were talking about a new Netflix series, a film, or a book. Because if you said Joe Bloggs has 24 hours left to live and only killing his daughter will save the world. Good top line,
with a really cool image that's
with a really cool image.
People
think,
to a book.
oh, is that? And they'll click on that, think, oh, it's a book. I don't really read books. And then, so you'll get, your clicks will be up, but you won't necessarily get sales. And now we've got the added factor of the bot really needing to know what it is you're selling, that I think book images are coming back into vogue. And quite often I'm seeing authors, and I'm doing this myself, of prominent pack shots. And so the pack shot being like in the bottom right-hand corner, like the paperback and a Kindle and a phone or whatever, actually making them 2/3 of the image with just a bit of background of an airfield or sunset or something. White or completely white background is always worth testing as well. So I think that we're going that way. The other thing I'll say is that I felt a bit left out as an author at this Meta workshop day because they were talking all the time about conversion ads. Now, we can't do conversion ads because we can't put a pixel on the Amazon product page.
Yeah, unless we're running to our own Shopify store or something like that.
An intermediate page, like a landing page that they then click on to go to the Amazon product page. Now, this is something we talked about in the past, and people have definitely, we've always advocated this is worth testing and trying. Particularly if you're email gathering and so on, you'd want your own landing page anyway. But the big downside has been that traditional view is that the more clicks you put in the way of the purchase, the fewer people are, the percentage is going to be lower. And so you're going to degrade the effectiveness of your campaign. But now again, these swings and balances, you get conversion knowledge back. It's more complicated to set this up. You have to set up a landing page that has a book and a nice little description and a big link to the Amazon page. And you have to put a pixel on there. And then you have to tell the campaign that's where the pixel is and what that event is. But then the campaign itself can start to use that information to find your audience. So it starts to see a pattern in because that is getting information back into the campaign, and you leave it then, and it should be in theory a more effective campaign, even if you do have this extra sort of stage between. Because
if we're just sending people to Amazon, maybe that's why it's showing it to people who've seen it before, because people are clicking on it. They're going, oh, I've read that. They click on it just for the habit of clicking on something.
Yeah.
But they're not buying, but Facebook doesn't know that they're not buying. All it knows is that you're getting the clicks.
Yeah.
So this feels like one of those areas where we might have to accept that the days of like 8p, 10p clicks or cents are gone. And you might be paying more, like 23 pence for a click, but that might actually be converting better.
Yeah. And I would definitely say to people, look into how pixels work. It is the nitty, more complicated bit, and most people don't enjoy doing. I don't enjoy working with pixels, but look into how they work. Try setting up a landing page. I would say as clean as possible, and then pixel that with a campaign. Send it Advantage Plus, so it's AI, and then let that run for a week or so, and see if you really do start to see an increase in effectiveness of the ad.
And this is where you really need to know your numbers, isn't it? Like you need to know at what point you're going to be profitable, like how much you can afford to spend getting a reader and what your goal is, because your goal, for example, is slightly different. I get the feeling that you're happy if you break even because you're trying to build an audience, build a platform, build a foundation. Whereas for me, for example, I've got a 9-book series. So I want to be making profit on advertising that 9-book series. There's no reason why I shouldn't be. So you need to really get granular with your numbers, which is a bit, another thing. I hate it. I find it's really not something that I enjoy. That you need to know at what point you're going to break even, at what point you're going to make money, because then you can concentrate on how much you can spend for that conversion in order to make it worthwhile. But I think we need to get out of our heads. We almost need to like fresh slate, forget what it used to cost, forget how easy it used to be, forget the fact that I used to be able to, make a profit on just book one, and actually any profit is good profit, and kind of get back into that. Like we're trying to attract readers and make some profit, even if it's not as big a margins as it used to be.
Yeah. So I think Meta is still something that will work, but it just works with a little bit more care and attention than it used to. There's no sort of fire and forget as much anymore, unless we get this conversion stuff working through a landing page. And more data is needed on that. I don't give you a definitive answer at this stage. I will trial it out myself. And the other thing I would say is that Germany, for me, has been a much more lucrative market. Yeah, I am seeing 9 cents clicks in Germany. So the other thing, I suppose, is that there's just more money swirling about in the UK and US as more and more companies think we'll do Facebook ads. And on that point, we've been talking about how traditional publishing is starting to use indie techniques, and how long's that taken really for that to happen fairly regularly. But I did notice that I picked up a Stella Rimington book I got to the end of a Kindle book last night, so in the dark, pressing on the store, looking for my next read. Stella Rimington was the boss of MI5 and now writes MI5 thrillers, slightly controversially. And the only thing I noticed when I looked at it is the book one in her series, which is a new hero, and it's got like 9-10 books in the series, is $1.99. And that's Penguin Random House. And there's no way a year ago Penguin Random House sold a Kindle book for $1.99. That's interesting to me that they are moving
I think
into our sphere. And I think, sorry, just to finish that point, I think what that means is there's lots of other traditional companies in other industries are using Meta ads for the first time this year. It seems to be finally got through to the corporations that there's another way of advertising, not just billboards across on the tube.
That's what I was going to say, is we're now competing with trad publishers who are running the same kind of ads that we were kind of the only ones really doing it. It took a while for trad publishers to run ads the same way that we were. They would, Penguin Random House or HarperCollins or whoever would run some ads that were, for a beautiful book or a fair author that they were going to put loads of money behind or something like that in a very billboard type style. But now, the competition is just so much higher. But I think also possibly it's very genre dependent as well. Like my genre, my readers, a lot of them just aren't on Facebook anymore. They're just not on Facebook. And I tried running Instagram ads, just Instagram ads, through the Instagram app, just boosting a reel, which was anecdotally, I think they were converting. But the analytics on those is so poor that it's really hard to tell. I mean, in theory, you would think that it would because I've got a bigger audience on Instagram. It's got more information about who is interacting with my stuff. It's got, a bigger readership on there who are interested in the kind of books that I'm writing. But the analytics for it are just so shocking. It's hard to tell anything apart from I'm getting cheap clicks and quite a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, there is the layers to the meta advertising ecosystem, and that boost, promote this post type thing. That is the very top layer. It's designed as introductory, and it won't give you the analytics you need once you've set up an ads manager dashboard to run things from. But
is it possible on the meta, through Facebook, that kind of business suite, to run an ad that only runs on Instagram? Can you tell it not to run the ad on Facebook?
Yes.
Can you?
Yeah. In placements. Yeah. So you get a list of placements. You could tell it not just only in Instagram, but exactly where in Instagram you want it to run.
Okay. So I think then I'm going to set myself a challenge of setting up some Instagram only ads through the proper Meta business suite. And I'm going to do that first because I think when you're testing, I always want to try several things at the same time. I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to try a conversion.
Try not to do more than one thing at the same time.
Yeah, because if you do get a spike, you can't tell where it's coming from. So you need to baby step.
Yeah, definitely. Benchmarking is so important. So you don't make too many changes at once so you can track them. And I would always recommend, if you're going to run Insta ads and Facebook ads, to do them in at least separate ad sets so you can see them rather than mixed up together in the same ad set. That's another thing. It wants you to run your ads all over the place. That list of placements, which has all kinds of wild and wacky, there must be about 30 different places now can run in the Meta ecosystem. It always wants you to tick them all. But,
and it was hard to find it. I couldn't find that list because I was looking, thinking, I'm sure that you can do this. And then I was like, maybe you can't because I couldn't find it. I felt like they were hiding it from me.
They are hiding it. You have to hover over it to be able to open it up and narrow down your choices. Okay, well, look, that's kind of an overview. That's what I wanted to talk about this week. This is not the forum to teach in any kind of detail. It's a big subject, but it's one of the beauties of going to conferences. I mean, I'm going to Aruba in April, which is a mastermind event, one of those that you've been to in the past, and we will have this discussion. So we'll hear how other people are getting on with it. In the retreat we have in June, it'd be great to go around the table. How's everyone getting on with Facebook ads? What's working, what's not? And it's much better because there's two of us here. There are a lot of people listening. We could discuss it in the Discord channel, but I think we do need to talk to each other as authors about this to find out what is working, what's not, and report back on, I'll report back on the landing page experiments that I do. And I'm going to have to roll my sleeves up and get involved in pixels.
It makes my brain go, oh.
I know. Hate pixels. I like pixies, but I don't like pixels. Good. Okay. That is our discussion for this week. I hope it was, didn't upset the man too much at the beginning that we didn't.
Is there one particular man that was upset at our waffle?
I don't know if it's a man. He's got a kind of strange handle.
I didn't know. I don't look at the comments because I just...
Well, they're normally very positive and very lovely.
We're having fun. That's all.
Honestly, the only reason we do this is because we have fun.
Yeah. And also, I think people need to bear in mind, we haven't seen each other for a week and we don't really chat before we start recording, do we?
We have to catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So don't forget, at time of speaking, there is one place left in our retreat in summer, which is indiewritersclub.com/retreat.
Also, if you want to go to the conference in Ireland, you have to book your ticket by the 4th of March because they've got to close it down for numbers. And that's only about 3 weeks away, I think.
Yeah, that's soon.
Yeah. We're speaking. We're speaking. I'm still not entirely sure. I think we're doing a live version of this, aren't we? That was the plan.
I better work on a presentation.
You've got a proper presentation to do, yeah.
It's on my list.
I'm just showing
Ireland
up.
Press, it says on my list.
Well,
I was going to mention, I started doing my 11 Labs audiobook version of my novella because I'm not going to pay. It's going to be expensive to get that properly narrated. So I thought I like trying these things anyway. And I'm finding it a little bit clunky. You can go in and you can actually it'll identify your characters, give you a list of your characters, and you can pick out voices for individual characters in there. But it's a little bit clunky and crashes occasionally, but it's going to be very exciting. Anyway, I did the export last night, having done quite a lot of work on choosing the character voices, and I've got Middle Eastern characters in there as well. So, there's lots of choice for you. I did the export. And coincidentally, last week, I don't know if you noticed, it was Findaway Spotify said that they are going to accept 11 Labs voiced audiobooks.
Are they? I didn't notice that.
I didn't think I'd be able to do much with this apart from put it on my own website, send it out to my main list and sell it direct via probably BookFunnel. But I can upload it to Spotify now as well, so it should be great. So
that's very cool.
I shall report back on that in the next week or so.
I want to hear a sample of it, please. Because this is one of those things where, like, I will never ever not want real humans to be doing audio narration because it's you can't get that from. I don't care how good it is, but I have a lot of readers, for example, who are neurodiverse, and they want my books in audio and they want something slightly better than just like Alexa reading it to you, but they'd be happy with a cheaper, less good version than a human narrated one, just so they can consume the product, just so they can actually have the book. So I would be quite happy with a 2-tier system where I've got my brilliant audiobooks that are like a real experience and a dramatic kind of production, and the cheaper ones that are, I don't know, $2.99 or something, which are just to enable people to consume that product because that's the way they need to consume it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way of doing it. Give the choice to people. And the other thing is that if you got, in my case, full novels, I'm going to pay a human because I'm with you on that. But my novella, it's a giveaway.
Exactly.
So this is what AI is built for, I think. Okay. All right. Thank you very much indeed. That is it for this week. We'll talk about something exciting next week and we'll ramble at the beginning. So
we absolutely will. Maybe even more than this week. Who knows?
Yeah. All right.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
Sign up for episode alerts at indiewritersclub.com. Come and chat with us at our exclusive Discord server at indiewritersclub.com/Discord. Or join our Facebook group at indiewritersclub.com/Facebook. And you can support the podcast at indiewritersclub.com/support. And don't forget to share your weekly word counts, because no matter what you've achieved this week, we're here to cheer you on. Thank you for being part of the Indie Writers Club.
The Indie Writers Club was brought to you by Publish Drive. With one click, self-publish your ebooks, audiobooks and print books to thousands of stores and libraries worldwide. And now you can start for free forever. Publish Drive's new free plan lets you publish your first ebook absolutely free. No subscription fees, no commissions, keep 100% of the royalties. Get your titles online in just a few minutes at publishdrive.com.